Country People, Part 5 of 7. The girl stood blank and solid and silent. "Walk to the gate with me," she said. "You're a brave, sweet little thing, and I liked you the minute I seen you walk in the door." Helga began to move forward. "What's your name?" he asked, smiling down on the top of her head. "Helga," she said. "Helga," he murmured. "Helga, Helga. I never heard of anybody named Helga before. You're shy, aren't you, Helga?" he asked. She nodded, watching his large red hand on the handle of the giant valise. "I like girls that wear glasses," he said. "I think a lot. I'm not like these people with a serious thought don't ever enter their heads. It's because I may die." "I may die too," she said suddenly, and looked up at him. His eyes were very small and brown, glittering feverishly. "Listen," he said. "Don't you think that some people were meant to meet on account of what they all got in common and all? Like they both think serious thoughts and all?" He shifted the valise to his other hand so that his hand nearest her was free. He caught hold of her elbow and shook it a little. "I don't work on Saturday," he said. "I like to walk in the woods and see what Mother Nature is wearing, over the hills and far away. Picnics and things. Couldn't you go on a picnic tomorrow?" "Say yes, Helga," he said, and gave her a dying look, as if he felt his insides were about to drop out of him. He had even seemed to sway slightly toward her. During the night she imagined that she seduced him. She imagined that the two of them walked on the place until they came to the storage barn beyond the two back fields, and there, she imagined, that things came to such a pass that she very easily seduced him, and that then, of course, she had to reckon with his remorse. True genius can get an idea across even to an inferior mind. She imagined that she took his remorse in hand and changed it into a deeper understanding of life. She took all his shame away and turned it into something useful. She set off for the gate at exactly 10 o'clock, escaping without drawing Miss Hope's attention. She didn't take anything to eat, forgetting that food is usually taken on a picnic. She wore a pair of slacks and a dirty white shirt, and as an afterthought she had put some Vapex in the collar of it, since she did not own perfume. When she reached the gate, no one was there. She looked up and down the empty highway, and had the furious feeling that she had been tricked, that he had only meant to make her walk to the gate after the idea came. Then suddenly he stood up, very tall, and behind a bush on the opposite embankment. Smiling, he lifted his hat, which was new and wide-brimmed. He had not worn it yesterday, and she wondered if he had bought it for the occasion. It was toast-colored, with a red and white band around it, and was slightly too large for him. He stepped from behind the bush, still carrying the black valise. He had on the same suit and the same yellow socks, tucked down in his shoes from walking. He crossed the highway and said, "I knew you'd come." The girl wondered acidly how he had known this. She pointed the valise and said, "Why did you bring your Bible?" He took her elbow, smiling down at her as if he could not stop. "You can never tell when you'll need the word of God, Helga," he said. She had a moment in which she doubted that this was actually happening, and when they began to climb the embankment, they went down to the pasture toward the woods. The boy walked lightly by her side, bouncing on his toes. The valise did not seem to be heavy today. He even swung it. They crossed half the pasture without saying anything, and then, putting his hand easily on the small of her back, he asked softly, "Where does your wooden leg join on?" She turned an ugly red and glared at him, and for an instant the boy looked abashed. "I didn't mean you no harm," he said. "I only meant you're so brave and all. I guess God takes care of you." "No," she said, looking forward and walking fast. "I don't even believe in God." At this he stopped and whistled. "No!" he exclaimed, as if he were too astonished to say anything else. She walked on, and in a second he was bouncing at her side, fanning with his hat. "That's very unusual for a girl," he remarked, watching her out of the corner of his eye. When they reached the edge of the woods, he put his hand on her back again and drew her against him, without a word, and kissed her heavily. The kiss, which had more pressure than feeling behind it, produced that extra surge of adrenaline in the girl that enables one to carry a packed trunk out of a burning house. But in her, the power went at once to the brain, even before he released her. Her mind, clear and detached and ironic anyway, was regarding him with a great distance, with amusement, but with pity. She had never been kissed before, and she was pleased to discover that it was an unexceptional experience, and all a matter of the mind's control. Some people might enjoy drain water if they were told it was vodka. When the boy, looking expectant but uncertain, pushed her gently away, she turned and walked on, saying nothing, as if such business for her were common enough. He came along, panting at her side, trying to help her when he saw a root that she might trip over. He caught and held back the long swaying blades of the thorn vine until she had passed beyond them. She led the way, and he came breathing heavily behind her. Then they came out on a sunlit hillside, sloping softly into another one a little smaller. Beyond, they could see the rusted top of the old barn, where the extra hay was stored. The hill was sprinkled with small pink weeds. "Then you ain't saved?" he asked suddenly, stopping. The girl smiled. It was the first time she had smiled at him at all. "In my economy," she said, "I'm saved, and you are damned. But I told you I didn't believe in God." Nothing seemed to destroy the boy's lack of admiration. He gazed at her now as if the fantastic animal at the zoo had put its paw through the bars and given him a loving poke. She thought he looked as if he wanted to kiss her again, and she walked on before he had the chance. "Ain't there somewheres we can sit down sometime?" he murmured. His voice softened toward the end of the sentence. "In that barn," she said. They made for it rapidly, as if it might slide away like a train. It was a large two-story barn, cool and dark inside. The boy pointed up the ladder that led into the loft and said, "It's too bad we can't go up there." "Why can't we?" she asked. "Your leg," he said reverently. The girl gave him a contemptuous look, and putting both hands on the ladder, she climbed it while he stood below, apparently awestruck. She pulled herself expertly through the opening, and then looked down at him and said, "Well, come on if you're coming." And he began to climb the ladder, awkwardly bringing the suitcases with him. The end of part 5.